Welcome to our thematic session on soundscapes as a tool to monitor disturbance impacts in the Anthropocene. Thanks to Darren for the introduction, and of course, thank you to BES for hosting this session. I'm really excited to see what people are going to talk about and to continue the discussions afterwards. A really exciting opportunity. So I'm going to open by talking about some ongoing collaborative work between ourselves at Trinity College Dublin in Ireland and colleagues at the Okinawa Institute of Science and Technology in Okinawa, Japan. So the focus of this session then, and a key research interest of mine, is understanding disturbance and global change using passive acoustic monitoring technology and ecoacoustics. And so I'll be talking to you today about work that we're doing on the subtropical island of Okinawa, which is to the south of mainland Japan in the Ryukyu archipelago. And people often ask me, why do you work in Okinawa? Well, when you work in Ireland, actually, Okinawa is a pretty nice place to visit. Of course, as long as you stick to social distancing. But more importantly, Okinawa has a really strong rural to urban gradient. More than 1 million people live in Okinawa, and they mainly live in the south in this kind of blue area down here, these urban areas. And actually that main city down there, Naha, it has the second highest population density in all of Japan after Tokyo. So we can ask really interesting and important ecological questions about land use change and anthropogenic activity and the impacts of these kind of global change drivers on ecosystems and on individual species. And so I'm using data from the Okion Churamori project, which is a monitoring project set up by Evan Economo and Masashi Yoshimura at OIST. And the project uses multiple complementary monitoring approaches to monitor Okinawa's ecosystems, using 24 field sites across Okinawa's full range of habitat types. You can see the different field sites here in red. But today I'm going to be focusing just on the acoustic monitoring part of the project, which is one of the main aspects. And so we've been recording using these wildlife acoustic SM4 recorders at each of these sites in near continuous recording, so kind of 10 minutes on, 20 minutes off, so 10 minutes out of every half hour, since February of 2017. Which means that right now we have over 200,000 hours of continuous audio recordings, which means that if I wanted to listen to all of the data back to back, it would take me a little more than 22 years. And I personally hope that my PhD is finished before then. So this is what the data looks like when it comes in, and we can get ecologically useful information from these soundscapes, from these recordings, because species signal their presence at a particular time and location, and they occupy these specific frequencies, these different acoustic niches. So here are some different birds singing at different times for different durations and at different pitches, different frequencies. And so we can extract information on species dynamics from the soundscape, looking at individual species. So we use a supervised machine learning approach to train computer algorithms to pick out the calls of individual species. And so here is, for example, every time the ruddy kingfisher calls during a 2-week period in summer of 2016. So days advance as we move away from the center, and it's a 24-hour clock, so midnight is at the top and midday is at the bottom, and the size of the bubble indicates the number of vocalizations of this species. And so we can see patterns start to emerge that tell us about species dynamics and phenology. So here, for example, we see that this species is most commonly calling between about 5 and 7 a.m. And so we did this for 5 different species with a range of habitat sensitivities across different field sites, themselves different in kind of land use and habitat conditions. And so our species kind of get rarer as we go to the right. So on the left is the common bulbul and crow, then the migratory kingfisher, an endemic owl, and finally the critically endangered Okinawa rail. And we find that the rarer species were not detected in our more urbanized sites, and that species varied in their vocalization densities across sites. So there's some indication maybe of certainly habitat preferences and maybe effects of land use here. But it's not just individual species we're interested in. We can use what we call acoustic indices to measure different aspects of the soundscape. So just like a community ecologist might use different metrics to summarize different aspects of biodiversity, we can use various acoustic indices. So for example, we might want to compare the ratio of biological sound to human noise, which typically occurs in the lowest frequency ranges. So we can see, for example, what noise pollution looks like on the right here. As I say, kind of really drowning out those low frequency sounds. And so we can quickly summarize this information and do this at high resolution. So this is a 2.5 year period separated into 10-minute chunks. And we can clearly see patterns emerging. So here, lighter values represent more biological sound, darker values more human sound. And so we can see, for example, the dawn chorus when all the birds start singing and how it shifts throughout the seasons. And we can also see clear bands of biological sound, which we attribute to cicadas during the summer, which our latest paper showed can be particularly problematic when using these acoustic indices. We're then interested in what these indices can tell us across our urbanization gradient. Unsurprisingly, human noise replaces natural sound in urban areas, but we're also finding that urban soundscapes are more variable, that is less predictable, regardless of the aspect of the soundscape considered. My PhD then focuses on ecological responses to pulse disturbances. So we're making use of the heavy-hitting 2018 typhoon season to look at extreme events in the soundscape and ecological responses to those events. So we can definitely see the effects of big typhoons by using acoustic indices. This is just a summary of the average volume over time, where lighter colors are higher volume, louder sounds. And unsurprisingly, the heavy wind and rain of typhoons is really, really loud in the soundscape, allowing us to detect the typhoon really clearly. But to bring it back to individual species, we're now exploring what effects the typhoon might have on different bird species. And some preliminary results are hinting that we might see lasting effects of the typhoons on the number of vocalizations at a given site, perhaps for days or even weeks after the typhoon has passed. And after this, I want to ask how the typhoon impacts interact with urbanization across our different sites. So this is just a flavor of the work that we're doing, as I say, in collaboration with colleagues at OIST in Okinawa. And this is a big collaborative effort. So I have many, many people to thank, but particularly I want to thank Evan Economo, Ian Donoghue, and Nick Friedman. So thank you for listening, and please do enjoy the rest of our thematic session. I'm really excited to hear from our other speakers, and I'm happy to field any questions if there's time for them.